This is All 32 Picks and IPA, your NFL and craft beer fancast with your hosts Adam Emmert, Brendan Schultz, and Gerrad Tim. Play along at picksandIPAs.com/join. Hooray football! Hooray beer!
Welcome to All 32 Picks and IPAs. And this week, we kick off the show with last week's winner, Adam Emmert.
Yeah, man, last week's winner by a lot. I'm getting hot. I'm getting hot going down the stretch here. I'm only maybe like 130 points out of the overall lead that Mr. Easley Street has like piled up. I don't know. He's on top week in, week out. He's been consistent. It's gonna be hard to catch him. But I know one man who won't catch him, and that is you, Brandon Schultz.
That is because you are the one I'm trying to run down, Adam. And yes, I will switch my picks at the last minute, even if it means picking the Broncos over the Raiders when I knew in my heart of hearts that wasn't going to happen. But I had to take the chance because I need to start catching up in 50-point chunks, and that was my opportunity. And unfortunately, the Broncos let me down. Speaking of which, in last place, Gerrad Tim.
Oh, last place all over, man.
Just kind of an overall letdown.
This is terrible. This is bad. My team's losing. I'm losing.
Brandon, now you will switch your picks, but we all know that Gerrad will not, even when he says he will.
I apologize. That was an honest mistake.
What was an honest mistake, Gerrad? I don't know that the listeners know. We know.
So I made my risk pick last week during the show, but I forgot to switch it online. I forgot to switch it over to whatever my risk pick was. I can't exactly remember what it was, but there needs to be a penalty for this, and we need to come up with what this is, because I ended up getting that pick right on accident.
Okay, we may not have to assess the penalty today, though. So one of the things that Gerrad talked about was maybe the idea of having to pick against his Broncos.
Which I don't ever want to have to do.
Except for maybe this week. But, but the other thing is that we can leave this out to the listeners.
Ooh, I like it.
I could be penalized next week for this last one. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we can make the listeners Goodell, and they don't have to make a decision on any time frame like Goodell doesn't. So
just get penalized at some point.
Yeah, at some
point.
Yeah, you may. Yeah, you may get penalized 2 seasons from now. Like Tom Brady.
I like it. Leave it up to the listeners.
That means I'll be the MVP 2 years from now.
All right. So where do they write in to give us their vengeance in their penalties?
Yeah, you can go to facebook.com/picksandIPAs, or you can email us at picksandIPAs@gmail.com.
It's time to lock in this week's picks.
What do you say we get into the games, fellas? This is a fun week. I enjoyed a lot of these matchups when I went through them. Even this first one, which it's an AFC North affair, which usually I'm not a giant fan of. I don't particularly care for the teams up there. But a game that is going on right now as we record this, Browns at Ravens. Brandon, you're I don't know, third favorite team, the Ravens? I'm sure you're picking them.
I don't know. It's top 5. I don't know. How did the Ravens get to be one of my favorite teams?
I don't know.
I think it's because I end up defending them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to defend them against the Browns, of course, even though they are down 1 point at halftime. They're a second-half team. Joe Flacco, elite quarterback, going to lead this team back against that Browns defense. And I can't tell you how many people picked the Ravens, but I know for a fact that it had to be in the high 80s or even the 90s, because the Browns 0-9. Although this could be the last chance the Browns have to actually win a game. Their schedule, the second half is pretty strong, and clearly they couldn't get through the first half without losing. So they're going to struggle. I got the Ravens locked in, even though they're down by 1, guys.
I accidentally have the Ravens locked in on this one.
Did you have problems online with your picks again, Gerrad?
I did. But I wanted to make this as my risk pick, because I was like, I think Cleveland might win this game. I kind of felt pretty good about Cleveland winning this game. So when I went to go switch it, it was like 6:39 in the game. It was already locked in. But Brandon, you mentioned Joe Flacco being elite. I think he was elite for one postseason run, but Flacco's no good, man. I saw him make some terrible decisions last week. Had one like 97-yard touchdown pass, and that was the only good thing he has done in the 3 years. I wish I could have picked Cleveland because I think that they still do play with a lot of heart. I mean, they're not getting blown out in a ton of games. They do lose some. Like, they lost to the Cowboys by a bit, but I think this is a game that they could win, and they're winning right now at halftime. Well, I got Baltimore.
Yeah. It is 7-6 as we speak, and apparently Cleveland's defense is dominating, according to Bleacher Report, with 2 sacks and an interception. But, yeah, I'm with you about Flacco not being elite. I mean, we've talked about that a number of times. I mean,
Are you guys thinking I was actually serious with the Joe Flacco being elite? Come on.
No, we're piling on. So he's just a guy these days. But look, the Ravens did beat Pittsburgh last week and really made him look kind of bad, which was surprising because I really do feel like Pittsburgh should be the better team out of those two teams. But the Ravens defense does play, fairly decently. I took the Ravens, and I still think that they will come through. Now, as far as the Browns go, they're a pretty darn good team to be 0-9. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised. You said the back half of their schedule is tough. They will not go 0-16.
No, they're going to be somebody. They're a team with heart. They are not giving up.
Yeah, exactly. Week in, week out.
I think that's a coaching thing as far as how hard they play.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. Yeah.
They are the best defeated team in history.
Best completely defeated team in history. Yeah. All right, guys. Just because we forgot to mention at the top, today we're drinking the Peak Organic Brewing Company IPA, and we'll talk about that later on in the pod. But so far, so good. It's tasty.
Uh-huh.
All right, guys. This week we decided on a new rule for picking our risk picks, and I like it. This is something that Brandon and I talked about on the drive over to Seattle. So basically, whoever finished last the previous week gets the first choice in risk picks. And so we've already discussed before we came on air who gets what risk pick. So I technically chose last, but I'm making it my the first one to be declared here because the next game on the docket is Packers versus Titans. I got Titans at home. This Packers team, Aaron Rodgers has the struggles big time. Their defense is not good, and I know that their run defense is fairly highly touted. I've seen them get gashed, and this Tennessee Titans team knows how to run the ball. Mariota has looked really good the last few weeks, easily declaring now, and it can be crowned, the best quarterback from that draft. And I just think that the Packers won't be able to keep up with the Titans because they are the best of the middling teams, in my opinion, Gerrad. And the Packers are a middling team.
Yeah, they are. And Green Bay seems to kind of be getting progressively worse. And I was having a hard time with this game. I wanted to pick Green Bay right out of the gate just because it would have been the obvious pick to make. But I might eventually switch to Tennessee just because I think Mariota's got a lot going for him, especially in that run game. I mean, you can't tell me Green Bay is going to stop that run game. I think I'm actually going to go Tennessee here too, especially at home. And until Green Bay gets that receiving core, shored up, I don't believe in this team at all.
So I will be the sole one picking the Packers. And Adam, I had a feeling you were going to take this one as your risk pick after the Colts earned you a risk pick last week against the Packers. So this is the week the Packers come back, though. Everybody's impressed with the Titans' rushing attack, and yeah, they're one of the top teams in the league in rushing. But the Packers' defense, number one in the league at stopping the run. I'm putting my hopes on them and Aaron Rodgers bouncing back from that loss to Indy. He's gonna be fired up and ready to go and to dismantle this Titans defense.
Well, even if the Packers do manage to stop the run game, they got to stop Mariota. I mean, they have a two-headed beast there. And it's going to be difficult for them to stop. And they're on the road. They don't play as well away from Lambeau. And I'm not sure it's a receiver problem in Green Bay. I feel like we might be looking at a coaching problem. This offense seems broken, and I'm not sure it's personnel.
When you look at Green Bay's defense, they are good at stopping the run, but one thing that they lose track of is a quarterback. Andrew Luck could have had way more yards if he would have just tucked it and ran last week. They completely lose sight of what the quarterback's doing at times.
Well, the Titans bottom third of the league in passing yards, so I don't know if they're quite as two-dimensional as you might think.
Brandon, I can remember very much as a Seahawks fan having to defend the fact that the Seahawks didn't have a ton of passing yards, yet Russell Wilson was a really great quarterback and could get it done. And that's exactly what we're seeing with this Titans team.
Well, I think this
Just
Titans
because they don't
team,
have yards,
they're going to score
they're
points.
Not a good throwing team.
The Titans team, they're going to score points. I just think that Aaron Rodgers has the ability to score more points against the Titans defense, and 80% of users agree with me. Only 20% going for the Titans.
This is why I'm up big. All right, guys, moving on to...
This is why I'm agreeing with you.
Another NFC matchup. Maybe one of the tougher games for me to pick this week. In fact, I am still on the fence. Vikings go on the road to take on the Redskins, Brandon. Vikings coming off their third straight loss.
I like the Redskins here. The Vikings, until they can prove to me that they are capable of winning a game. Like you said, 3 straight losses.
They won 5 this year.
They did win 5 in a row, but they haven't won anything since. And they still have lost their offensive coordinator. I've picked the Redskins to lose too many times. And this is a coin flip game in terms of user consensus. 51% going Washington. 49% going Minnesota. I'm going with the home team.
You know, I'm jumping on the Adam Picks bandwagon here, and I'm just going to go with it. I'll tell you one bandwagon. Well, I was never really on it. I was jokingly on it. But Sam Bradford took, 4 games
before
and teams are just completely shutting him down. But they've also realized that the Vikings cannot run the ball.
They can't.
Worth a lick.
Nope, haven't all season.
Yeah, and their defense has been getting tired. You see this all across the NFL. You see it with my Broncos defense. You see it with Seattle, their defense. You see it with this defense. A lot of teams who can't sustain an offensive drive, their defenses are just getting worn out. And I see that happening with the Vikings because that's the only dimension that their football team has anymore. And I think Kirk Cousins is going to have a heyday with this worn-out defense, and the Vikings aren't going to score. I'm going Washington.
Yeah, my biggest struggle with this is that, number one, the Redskins have screwed me all year. Number two, I know, Brandon, you were hilarious to me. Like, until they prove to me that they can win a game. Well, they won 5. Well, yeah, but they haven't won any since. Well, what have you done for me lately? Okay? Like, this is about a season of work, you know? I mean, it's not just their last 3 games that makes this team what it is. You're right, though, Gerrad, about the fact that Vikings offense is in complete struggle mode right now. They can't do anything, and it really is because when you can key in on Sam Bradford and the easy targets aren't there on rhythm, he's a mess. And he has no improvisational skills whatsoever, much like my skills to say the word improvisational. So,
and their offensive line is banged up now too. So.
The Vikings are not a terrible team, and losing their tackles has been tough on them. But they're not a terrible team, and I just have a hard time seeing them losing 4 in a row. So I'm gonna go with the Vikings. I'm a road warrior this week.
You are a road warrior, and I can see the Vikings winning. I mean, that's why this is a coin flip game.
Yeah,
the Vikings, if they get some turnovers inside, on the Redskins side of the field. Give him a short field. Sam Bradford can get the ball in the end zone. It's just I don't know if he can sustain drives over and over behind that offensive line.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't feel good about this one. Let's put it that way. I just really dislike Kirk Cousins.
You don't like that?
I don't like that.
It makes me feel better picking them now that you've picked against them, because I think if we both picked them, Adam, the Vikings would win for sure.
That's a good point. It's a good point. All right, guys. Another NFC matchup, interdivisional, which is always interesting. The 6-3 Atlanta Falcons, who, after starting out super hot, have been a 50-50 team. I mean, they're not quite the juggernaut everybody says, but still a very good team. Taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, who can maybe fit the same exact billing there, Gerrad. I mean, it started out really hot and maybe have come back to earth a little.
So when I'm looking at these two teams, I'm starting on the defensive side of the football. I don't know if either team is better than the other, though I think Atlanta's pass rush might have a slight edge over Philadelphia. But Philadelphia's defense can get exposed quickly, and once they do in the beginning of the game, it's pretty much over. But when you go to the offensive side of the ball, Atlanta has an ability to score a lot more points than Philadelphia. I just don't know if Carson Wentz can keep up with an offensive type of a showdown. So I'm going Atlanta on the road just because I don't think they have the offensive firepower to do that.
Yeah, I'm going Atlanta on the road as well. I had high hopes for the Eagles being able to beat the Giants with that pass rush of theirs, being able to get to Eli. If they can't make Eli uncomfortable, I don't know if they're going to be able to make Matt Ryan uncomfortable. You mentioned the Falcons being kind of a 50-50 team since, but Adam, just looking at their games, they lost by 3 points to San Diego and they lost by 2 to Seattle. But those are close games.
They're losses.
Well, congratulations for looking at the scores and noting the L next to their name.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you ain't first, you're last, Brandon. I don't care how much you lose by.
They're winnable games, whether they're on the road or at home. They're in the game
They found a way to lose.
Well, they're going to win this game. Then this is another risk pick scenario. 80% going with Atlanta, only 20% with the Eagles.
I thought long and hard about this, but Brandon, what you said about the Eagles not getting Eli Manning off of his spot and disrupting that offense, if they can't do that on Eli Manning, to do that against Matt Ryan in this offense, I just don't think it'll happen. And plus, look, Wentz has played really, really well. I'm impressed. Eagles have their man. Like, he's a franchise guy. Like, there's no doubt about it. But he does seem to make those rookie mistakes in critical times, or at least he has the last few games. I think the Eagles have a big-time fighting chance in this. If they ended up winning, I would not be shocked, especially if they get Darren Sproles involved more. The last game I watched of the Eagles, they had Matthews basically benched, and they were giving the ball to Sproles, and he was producing. I mean, one of the more underrated players in this league, and somebody maybe that when he's all said and done, we should think about as a Hall of Famer. I think we talked about that.
Yeah, we had that conversation last week.
Yeah. So I'm taking the Falcons, but again, this is one that I do not feel good about.
Yeah, with the risk pick, it could be someone's opportunity to really.
There's a lot of risk picks this week.
Know there is.
Yeah,
and winnable ones too.
Mm-hmm. Which shows you how odd the user consensus is this week. I think the population seems to think that they've got this league figured out, and they don't, because they're picking against things that I'll pick. Okay, guys, continuing on the NFC theme, Bears go on the road to take on the Bucs. Brandon, who you got? I mean, I don't know how much time I even want to spend on this game.
Is this the toilet bowl of the week?
No, I felt Rams-Jets is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You want to make this a toilet bowl?
If you guys think it's Rams-Jets, you can overrule me.
Jets are worse because the Jets are a dumpster fire, man.
And the Rams are.
That's gonna be a turnover game.
Yeah, okay. And the Rams are unraveling.
Well, this to me is a pick'em, so I'll let you guys overrule this one. But Bears, Buccaneers, user consensus on this one is 76% with the Bucs. This seems a little more like a 50-50 game to me with the way, because Jay Cutler's back and playing with the Bears now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Starting.
Mm-hmm. Bears have been putting up points, though.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. They put up 20 points against a Vikings defense. Makes me think they could put up points against the Bucs defense, but they are going on the road to Tampa, and maybe that's just enough for me to stick with the home team, Buccaneers. I don't feel good about it, but I'm taking the Bucs.
All right. Well, Chicago, I'm road warrior this week. I told you, taking the Bears, because the Bears are the best of the bad teams. They really are. They compete with pretty much everybody. They've been more solid than I would have given anybody credit for. John Fox has taken zero talent and turned it into something that is at least watchable. And maybe everybody is picking the Bucs because Mike Evans is coming back from concussion protocol this week. They feel like you give Jameis another weapon, he'll be fine. But look, if there's one thing I know is I'll take the chucker with experience over the chucker with less experience. And so I'm going with Jay Cutler.
Ooh, the muscle hamster back in practice too.
Huh. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I'll tell you why. I'm picking the Bears in this game. I've watched Jay Cutler for years, and I know what his attitude and what his mentality is like. He has one more FU game left. I think he did it last week against the Vikings. Came out, won a divisional game after everybody's kind of ready to just throw him right in the trash, get rid of him, whatever. He actually played okay. Played pretty good. He's got one more of these games left, and it's this week, and then he's completely done.
Then he's done for the year. You're going to pick against the Bears the rest of the year.
He will probably play the rest of the year, but he's going to be completely shitty.
Or
he's got one left.
He's playing for his career. I mean, the Bears are going to part ways after this year, one way or another.
Do you think Cutler cares, though, if he's playing for his career? He doesn't care about anything.
I think he cares about keep getting them checks because that wife of his spends money.
They're winning. Chicago's winning this game.
I think so, too.
I think he's going to save one of those games for a divisional game later in the year. I don't think he's going to use it up now.
No. Okay.
Besides, he has to wait till his back is truly against the wall. See, he'll win like the last 2 or 3 games of the season and make himself appear like a really good option as a quarterback for some other team.
Damn it, that's solid logic.
Yeah, it is. Maybe I should switch it this team.
Nope, I'm sticking with the Bears. Fuck you.
Next up, this week's beer review.
All right, guys, let's talk about beer. Gerrad, give us a little bit of knowledge about Peak Organic Brewing Company.
I'm going to read. Peak Organic Brewing Company is a small brewing company dedicated to making delicious, creative, handcrafted beer. When possible, they prefer to source from artisan. Is it artisan or artesian? Artisan and local farmers who grow organically. These farmers tend to grow exceptional ingredients, making their beer tasty. What do you guys think?
Well, not only is this beer tasty, this is a good smelling IPA.
Yeah.
This is one of the better IPAs I've had in a long time. I find the beer that's hardest for us to review is IPAs. Because everybody just jams a bunch of hops in it. It's like IPA.
But I think the difference in a good IPA and a bad one is whether or not the hops are fresh or if they were just vacuum packed and they're stale. I think from being from Portland, Maine in the Northeast, they have a good ability to grow some hops just like we do in the Northwest.
This brewery is
fresh.
This brewery is located in Portland?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Portland, Maine.
Well, then that answers your question on whether it's artisan or artesian. See, for the rest of the country, it's artisan, but in Portland, that's artesian.
Oh, okay. These guys did start off as a small home brewing company in the 90s.
Wow.
That's kind of cool.
That is pretty cool. 7.1% by alcohol volume. You can feel that. But even for having a fairly high alcohol content and it being an IPA, it is very flavorful. You're not overwhelmed. Right.
I want to send a message, though, to Peak Brewing Company. Stop using screw tops. It makes you look bad.
Or I popped it anyway.
I did too. So are screw tops like the equivalent of box wine? Although now some of that really fancy wine is starting to come in box wine because it turns out it keeps better.
Yeah, it does.
Oh.
And it turns out screw tops are more convenient. You have one less tool to use.
Yeah, but if you're a beer drinker, you have a tool at the ready,
lighter.
Or you know how to
lighter.
right. You know how to work a lighter.
Top. You can still pop a screw top.
You can.
You can.
We did it.
But
What's
it
your
just
beef,
I don't know. It looks ghetto to me.
So is it the feel of the threads upon your lip? Is that what you not like?
Well,
is it the feel or is it the ghetto look?
Is it too aggressive?
Do you feel like you're drinking like some Mad Dog 4040 or something?
Right.
Is that what the problem is?
Exactly.
Or do you feel like you're drinking a soda?
Well, part of it too is I always have I have my tool and I undo the lid, and then when I see a screw top, it's like, oh, I could have done this a whole lot easier.
So you just don't like that you were played as a sucker,
right? It's because I think.
See, the thing is, if you don't know, and then you start reefing on it as if it's a screw top, then you look like a sucker too,
right?
More dumb.
And you got some cuts on your hand.
I know.
Yeah,
it's a bad look either way.
So maybe the first thing that President Trump needs to do in office, I just wanted to say the word once just to see how it felt, like try it out.
Do you feel dirty?
I don't know how I feel. I really don't. Then is to go ahead and mandate across the nation either screw or pop top.
Especially if you're if you want to be considered a craft brewery, the law of the land should be it must be a pop top and not a screw top.
Okay, but then you get into what's a craft brewery and what's not a craft brewery, because you got Budweiser that owns all these little craft breweries now. So now what do they do?
Well, it depends on how much influence they have. This is why laws get really tricky.
Brandon, they have all the influence.
I don't know why it is, but I know I was making fun of Brandon, but I have a stigma against the screw top myself on a beer. I don't know why. But I could screw off the top of the beer. I was like, it must be like shock top or something.
You guys are both toppists.
I don't know why.
I don't see a difference. To me, a top is a top,
and I'm like, how can
they're
you be
both
legitimate?
equal?
It's all about what's inside that matters.
Yeah. I look deeper into the bottle.
I don't. I judge it by its cover.
And speaking of which, kind of organic looking label, right? Like it doesn't. It's kind of got
it's the hops plant on there.
Yeah, but it's just a photo. The graphics aren't fancy or anything. I don't know. It feels like they picked this off of Vine.
I could see that.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. That was a conversation ender. Let's move on then with the picks. All right. One of your other teams, Brandon, the Kansas City Chiefs, go on the road to take on Cam Newton and the crybaby shit-ass Cam Newton, who's crying yet again after another week. Cry, cry.
Cry, Cam. Is this going to be the week that the officials start calling hits on Cam Newton and flagging him as he wishes? I don't think so.
This is the week that after the snap of the ball, all the officials just turn their back on the play. kind of like back in the day when you'd get roughed up in prison. Like right when you knew you were in trouble is when all the guards just turned their backs purposefully and they weren't going to watch and you just get a beat down.
Uh-huh.
Like that's what's coming.
What's going to happen.
That's what he gets for being a rat.
I could see it.
I don't know. Mr. Sherman's been bitching about the refs for weeks now, and he gets away with that roughing the kicker.
That wasn't roughing the kicker.
He's been complaining for weeks, and now all of a sudden he's getting calls.
He's not complaining.
He's been bitching for weeks. He's always complaining about something. He's a baby, too.
He's not a baby.
Yeah, he is. They all are. Him, Cam, Rivera. Oh, they all are.
You can't put them in the same basket of deplorables, Gerrad.
If you're going out there and you're complaining about the officiating, yeah, you're a baby.
No, but see, Richard Sherman's very specific about the officiating that he complains against. He wants fewer calls against the defense. He thinks it's been too long of the offense getting their way, and he wants to see it more balanced to the defensive side of the ball. That's where his complaints are.
He's still complaining.
Okay.
Fair enough.
It's annoying.
So who do you got, Brandon?
I am going with my chefs on this one. Although I do want to pick the home team Panthers. It is tempting because they are starting to come back. But, this Kansas City Chiefs defense, they're a top quarter of the league team when it comes to points on defense. And it makes me think that they are going to give Cam problems and keep him off the scoreboard. Plus, they're aren't they tied for first in they're second in the AFC West. Yeah.
Yep.
So they got to win this game to stay on pace because they are my pick to win the AFC West this year.
I'm going with Carolina just because of the uncertainty with the quarterback position. Alex Smith easily could have played that game. He didn't have the symptoms of a concussion. He was cleared to play. Could have. They started Nick Foles instead, who, he played okay. I mean, he had a couple of touchdowns, I think it was, or something, but that's what Nick Foles does in kind of relief quarterback play. He'll be all right, but I think there's a little uncertainty about the confidence of their quarterback. I'm going with Carolina at home because they need to win a game big time. They're actually still in it in that division. In Kansas City, fuck them.
So I don't think that there's that much uncertainty around the quarterback position. I think Alex Smith plays this week. Everybody knows Nick Foles is a good backup. Great, he's a good backup. But if there's one thing that Alex Smith can thrive on, that's a bad secondary. And he can check down Charlie the holy heck out of this Carolina defense. Keep the Chiefs on the field, which then keeps Cam off the field for any damage that him and Jonathan Stewart can possibly do. Look, I understand the Panthers have played more competitively, but they're still 3-5. I mean, they're still a bad team this year. That secondary is still terrible. And the Chiefs' defense is a very good defense, actually. It's one of the better in the league. So I'm going Chiefs on the road because Road Warriors.
One of the better defenses, and this week they get Justin Houston back in the lineup. 63% going Chiefs, 37% with the Panthers.
I think it's hilarious that we each have a different AFC West team winning this at the beginning of the year. we each picked somebody different.
But nobody picked the Chargers, which I think speaks to our intelligence.
Exactly. And you know what else speaks to it?
But they should, if you look at those games that they lost, they could easily be in the lead in the AFC West. It's a good division all of a sudden.
Yeah, and they're honestly not that far out still.
No, they're not. And they're one of the better teams, I think.
We can talk about them.
I think we can safely say that the AFC West is the best division this year.
I think all around, I think it has to be. Because there are no dumpster fires in it.
Right. There aren't any.
I think I have to agree. I think you guys are right on that one. I hadn't thought about it, but I think you guys are on it.
Well, the NFC East is a lot better than I would have expected. Just because of a couple of rookies,
I think that's a big product of them playing each other.
But the Cowboys aren't a bad team.
No, the
Eagles have had some quality wins, and the Giants have also kind of looked the part at times this year.
At times, yeah. I think you put any of those teams up against AFC West. I think they're...
Yeah, but I thought the NFC East was going to be the worst division of football, and they're really not that bad.
No, that's true. Not as bad as we thought.
Nope.
Congratulations, NFC East.
Well, speaking of one of the worst divisions in football, let's talk about the AFC South. We got the Houston Texans going on the road to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'll just put it out there. I'm going with the Texans straight up. Look, Bortles is bad. That offense is poor, and I know they just switched offensive coordinators and all that stuff. And the real disappointing part is their defense really hasn't played great, even with that influx of talent, even with Gus Bradley. It pains me to say that this team isn't going anywhere, but they're not. And the Texans aren't a great team, but they're a lot better than the Jaguars. I know that's great analysis, but Texas.
It comes down to you just kind of have to pick one.
Yeah.
And I mean, firing your offensive coordinator, great, but that hasn't affected Blake Bortles completely losing touch with his mechanics and throwing the football. How does this happen? So, I mean, it's kind of happened to Brock, too. His mechanics have been pretty bad in the pocket.
It's his footwork, man.
And he is terrified to get hit at this point. I think he's been banged up, and he's just kind of had enough, too. But I'm going Houston because I think they might win.
Yeah, they might. I'm going Houston, too. Even though they are on the road, this is Jacksonville. This is one of those. Jacksonville now is one of those teams that, yes, they're probably going to win one or two games the rest of the season, but you really want to try and chance which one of those games it's going to be. Even against a team that seems like they're struggling, like the Texans. The Jaguars defense has good pick off Brock Osweiler and give him good field position and put him in position to win this game. But I'm not going to chance it. 86% of users aren't going to chance it. Only 14% going with the Jags. I am going Houston.
Guys, I wish we had a breaking news sounder that we could play. Ravens up 13-7 over the Browns. You picked the Ravens, dude.
I don't care. I want Cleveland to win a game, man.
So do I.
They can win next week.
I'm a feel-good story.
You're not a feel-good anything. All right, guys, let's talk about probably one of the most interesting games on the docket to me this week. The Denver Broncos go down to New Orleans, to the Dome. Who dat? Who dat gonna beat them Saints? Gerrad, is it gonna be your Broncos?
Yeah,
who dat,
man?
Who dat?
Yeah, I don't know. Because look, last week we ran the ball 12 times. 12.
That's a ton. We ran it like
hell. But this is ridiculous. This is a Kubiak offense. You're supposed to run the ball. This is run the ball, play action football. When you run the ball 12 times, nothing's going to open up downfield. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of people saying, well, Trevor Siemian has slowly just fell off the map. That's not it. Once again, they're putting everybody back in pass defense because we're not even trying to run the ball. And what that's doing is we lead the NFL in 3-and-outs. That's not good. That means your defense is on the field the entire game. And when you look at the time of possession, it's astronomically lopsided on our opponent's behalf. There's every reason that the New Orleans Saints should win this game because our defense is gassed, we're injured, and our offense isn't doing a damn thing. We're going to win this game because we need to pull ourselves out of this at some point, and I think we're going to try and run the ball, and we have to do it against this team because everybody else has.
Well, Adam, you're running out of road teams to pick this week, and so maybe this is the time in the schedule that you need to switch over and pick the home team, but I'm going with the home team Saints here because of we saw last week the Broncos play an offense, a pretty good offense, and the Oakland Raiders. That defense, if the defense holds the Raiders to 0 points in the fourth quarter, that offense does have the opportunity to come back and tie the game up and send it to overtime. But no, the Broncos team allowed 10 points to the Raiders, and that allowed them to pull away. The Saints are going to be able to score points on this defense if the Raiders can. So that's what makes me like the Saints at home. They tend to put up a ton of points there, no matter what defense it seems they're playing against. And I just don't know if Simeon and the Broncos have enough to come back on them to score enough points on that Saints defense.
Yeah, this not to sound like a dick, but this is the Saints to me. Actually, to sound like a dick. Basically, I haven't seen a defense really slow the Saints down. Not one. I mean, they get theirs against everybody. And the one thing that gives me pause is that the Raiders really had a lot of their success running the football. And that's not the Saints' MO. It's right. Drew Brees or bust. So he's still going to have to do it against a good secondary in Denver. But
keep in mind, Aqib Talib is probably not going to be playing again.
Oh, is he likely out?
And Kayvon Webster probably not going to be playing again.
Okay.
Like, we're down to our fifth string guy in the secondary. It's not good.
Yeah, and the other thing is that, Gerrad, you hit it right on the head about the time of possession thing. The Saints did that to us. Not but just a few weeks ago. Basically, time of possession was lopsided. Defense gets tired after being tired already after a couple games, and it just gets tough. And I had no idea that the Broncos were leading the league in 3-and-outs.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
I figured the Seahawks would have been real close there. It's hilarious that our two teams mirror each other as much as they do right now. The one thing I'd ask you, Gerrad, about the Broncos running game is this a function of the offensive line? Because I've heard some people come out and say that the offensive line is legitimately bad. Then I've had some people say basically, well, no C.J. Anderson, that makes life hard. Is it a back thing? Is it play calling? Like, what is it to you?
Well, to me, so when you look at what we did last week, our first 3 plays in which we went 3-and-out, we didn't even attempt to run the ball. And throughout the game, we ran it 12 times. If you look at when we had C.J. Anderson in the game, we still weren't running the ball very well. We would do it late in the games. If we were running the ball 25 times a game, then it would start to open up. So to me, to be honest with you, I think it's a play call thing. Because when you're not even trying, it's not going to happen. Yeah. So what you hope to do in any sort of a run game is to keep it going all game long to try to get things to open up later on in the second half. That's mainly why we've always tried to run the ball. And so, yeah, to me, it's a play calling thing, but it's a product of play calling and our offensive line just not being very good. So it's a combination of those things. It's not running back problems.
Well, that's interesting. Well, fuck the Broncos anyway.
That's what I said last week.
That's what 41% of users are saying, but 59% still going with Denver.
So I have to say, Gerrad, watching the Broncos-Raiders with Ross Willarding, and knowing the joy that he took knowing that you were having no joy, that was really fun. I enjoyed that moment. I enjoyed that moment a lot. All right, guys, on to the toilet bowl. LA Rams struggling. They're just spiraling out of control. They're running out of games to somehow make it to 8-8. The Jets, they just stink. Brandon Marshall, the guy who said he was going down in the ship with the beard, cusses out the beard on the sidelines. I think he said, trim your fucking beard. Do something. We need to change this. Who you got, Brandon?
Well, because I have picked the Rams to win 5 weeks in a row, and they have lost all 5 weeks in a row, or at least every time that I've picked them, they've lost. So I have a good streak going here. I'm sticking with the Rams.
Yeah, the game I'm guaranteed not to watch, going with the Rams.
Interesting. I was going to go with the Rams, but you just gave me a great stat there, Brennan, and that is every time you pick against them, they lose. Or that you pick them, they lose.
And the Jets are at home, so you could feel pretty good about picking the Jets on this one.
Fuck it, I'm switching to the Jets.
All right, 56% going with the Jets. It's kind of a coin flip game.
Oh, God. Oh, I really don't like that.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. Although, as I went to switch... Oh, okay, I guess it did finally go. All right. Moving on to another AFC matchup here, guys. 2 middle-of-the-road teams. The 4-4 Miami Dolphins go on to take on maybe the best sub-500 team in all the league, Gerrad. 4-5 San Diego Chargers.
I'm going with San Diego because Miami's run game actually was slowed down a little bit last week. I mean, in the first half, you know his name, Ajayi or whatever.
Ajayi.
Yeah.
Ajayi.
He had 57 yards in the first half, but one of those carries got him 20-some yards, and he really didn't look that good. He didn't have too many holes to run through. I think he is a solid running back, but I think that's going to come back down to earth just a little bit, and I don't see Miami's secondary slowing down Phillip Rivers, especially at home with that crowd. But, yeah, I mean, San Diego is one of the best poor record teams in football. I mean, San Diego all the way. I don't think Miami. I'm still not sold on Miami.
Well, this is going to be a close game, and we haven't seen we've seen the Chargers in a lot of close games, and then they'll end up losing them. They were able to pull it out. I guess Melvin Gordon showing that he could run the ball and help close that game out this last week. But I like the Dolphins on the road here. The one thing that I really like about the Dolphins and Jay Ajayi is that he has about 40 fewer carries than a guy like Todd Gurley, but yet he has about 200 more yards on the season. That just makes me smile, being so against the Rams.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is one of the listeners, I think they had tweeted in or something that through 4 weeks or something like that, Ajayi had more rushing yards than Gurley had the entire season.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is hilarious. It made me feel like I was still in this bet if Rawls ever plays again. Like, so you're saying there's a chance. But
and I guess this would be like a pseudo risk pick for me too, because the Dolphins only 22% user consensus, 78% with the Chargers.
Are you taking Dolphins?
I'm taking Dolphins.
Whoa. To me, this is easy. I think this is the Chargers all the way. They really have played really well in every one of their games, even the losses. Yep. Because, sometimes you do look at the score and see if a team is really as bad as those losses look. If they only lost by a little bit, those losses aren't as bad.
That's what I was saying about the Falcons.
Huh? What? No.
It's a loss.
No, look, the Chargers are a decent team. There's nothing about the Dolphins other than the fact that running back got hot for a couple of weeks that excites me.
They're
Chargers.
Still hot though. They beat Pittsburgh 30-15. They beat Buffalo 28-25. They beat the Jets. That's not saying much.
Hot. hot. Yeah.
Well,
now they play the Chargers and now they'll be less hot.
The Jets are essentially Chargers East, so.
Whoa. No, if the Chargers and the Jets play, the Chargers would win that game by at least 31 points.
That's a solid prediction. All right. Let's talk winners, Brandon.
All right. Let's look down the leaderboard. A lot of people just jammed up, whether it's the overall group leaderboard of the All 32 Picks and IPAs Podcast League. And this week, I think we had about 9 people tie. So one cool thing, though, I think this is where we stopped in Post Falls, talked to Daniel Weinholtz on our way to the game, Adam, and he donated an amazing knife from Buck Knives to the show.
Yeah,
I think this is what the winner of the All 32 Picks and IPAs Podcast League should get, because we have prizes for the other two. This is what should go to the winner of this one.
I like it. I absolutely like it because it's a nice little knife. Man.
I hate the fact that I won't get this knife.
You should be disappointed. You should have picked better. But
thanks again to Daniel, man. Very generous of him and of Buck Knives. Super super cool. That was really fun meeting up with him for lunch. Watch a little games on our way over. He's an awesome dude.
Yeah, it was cool. So. Those people in line, let's look at those at the top of the league right now. A 4-way tie for first place. Biggity Cool with 1060. AK 12th Man with 1060. Super Tecmo Rawls and Wideout 888 all in first place.
How many points?
1060.
Ooh, I'm only 90 points out. No, I'm only 80 points out.
Ooh, you're getting there. And then we have several people at 1050 and 1040. So this is winnable for just about anybody in the top 15 right now.
I'm only about 3 weeks out.
You could get there. You probably won't.
Do you mean 3 weeks of being out?
Yeah, like if I were the only one to pick and nobody else did.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah, there it is.
Well, let's run down the list of everybody who was a winner this week. Ram CR 78 with 150 points. Earl Jam, Euphorbia. Matt, I like Earl Jam.
Yeah.
Matt Leffler, Biggity Cool, KC Hawks, Sexy Deep Rawls, the Graham Cracker, and JPC Hawker, all with 150 points.
Wow, 150, huh? Got me by 10. And I had a good week. I only missed three.
Some of those names crack me up every time they come up.
Yeah. Yeah. Some creative folks out there, man. There's no doubt about that. Is that all our leagues? Did we talk about everybody?
Yeah, we'll talk about the other ones on the Seahawkers podcast.
Okay.
Our other winners.
All right, moving on from winners since I wasn't quite one, and I want to be done talking about that. San Francisco 49ers go on the road to take on the Arizona Cardinals, Brandon, NFC West matchup. Chip Kelly's still not in college football. Kaepernick actually put up, I think, over 300 yards last week.
389, but one of them was a long check down or screen or something like that.
Sure, okay. But the resurgence of Cap, you buying it?
Not really. The one thing that I'm interested in and that I'm really kind of bummed about, and breaking news on this one, the Ravens up 21-17. So, Gerrad, you can be happy. You did not pick the Browns. But I wanted to see if more people picked, percentage-wise, picked the Browns than a one-win team in the 49ers. Only 3% going with the 49ers in this game against the Cardinals. And the Cardinals have a losing record at 3-4-1. So, and you never know what's going to happen in some of these intra-divisional games. But I think we can all be pretty sure that the Cardinals are going to win. Going Arizona.
I'm going Arizona, too. I just think San Francisco's the worst team in football. The Browns beat San Francisco if they play.
Yeah.
And, Kaepernick didn't pay attention to the election. I don't think he's paying attention to defenses either. I don't think he's going to pay attention to Arizona.
Can I just say the Kaepernick news was disappointing? Like, I understand you don't like either of the two candidates, but
none of us did.
There's candidates that are down ballot.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, vote for your local guys.
Right, and that's where the real change could start. And if you want to be a leader, if you were really doing this to lead people and to make a statement, then you got to walk the walk, too. I felt like that was a whiff on his part. Maybe he learns. I don't know.
Part of me understands, though. It can be awfully frustrating when you look at the top of the ticket and you don't see any candidates that you feel good about. I can understand that part.
Yeah, I think most of America can at this point.
Well, I can understand that part. But then again, most of America didn't make themselves a national symbol of dissent.
This is true.
If you're going to put yourself out there and make yourself that guy, then you got to...
Well, and even Brandon Marshall during the last one, he stood during the national anthem. He goes, we made our protest, now it's time for action. Which he is doing. But it's time to move on. It's time to just stop taking a knee.
He should have gone to the polling place and Instagram a photo of himself kneeling in front of the polling place.
Well, if he really felt that strongly about it, what he should have done is gone to the polling place and take a shit on the ballot.
And then Instagrammed it.
Yeah. That's what he should have done. That would have been epic. You'd have been my better at life for like 4 weeks in a row.
I love the hell out of that guy. Took his shit on the ballot.
He just puts a big steamer on it. Walks out. Oh, that'd be hilarious.
Hopefully it wouldn't come down to a swing state, because then, and they got to recheck all the, hanging chads and things. What's going to be dangling off that thing.
That's hilarious. So, Cardinals.
Okay.
Everybody consensus.
Okay.
Next.
I'm glad we went from being very serious to talking about poop. That was, I think.
Shitting on ballots, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it made the full arc.
Right.
Okay. Something to talk seriously about, the 7-1 Cowboys. Go on the road to take on my hiccups and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Talk now, Gerrad, so I can stop.
I still like Dallas. I think these rookies are really taking the NFL by storm on with this offense. I think with Dez Bryant coming back, they still have to work on that chemistry, but they're getting there. They got to work on it against the Browns last week. They beat them by a fair amount. And this Browns team, like we've said before, they're not putrid. They're not the worst 0-9 team we've ever seen. But I don't think Pittsburgh's as bad as they play. Pittsburgh had to play a divisional game against Baltimore. Baltimore always plays them tough. And Ben Roethlisberger always plays terrible in Baltimore. He has a losing record there. He never plays well. He's a little bit injured. So I think Pittsburgh's going to play better than they did last week. But to me, this is where Dallas kind of has to make a statement against one of their kind of all-time rivals. I think when you go back to the games in the 70s, I think Dallas is going to win this game on the road, because they just have a chip on their shoulder, seems like, and they got all the mojo in the world.
All the mojo in the world. But the thing is that mojo runs out. It has an expiration date. And
not when you're in your 20s.
The Steelers...
Maybe it does for you and I.
That's true.
And Brandon.
That might be true. But the thing about the Steelers is they're an up-and-down team, right? Yeah. You get one of those clunker performances, and then you get Big Ben lighting the world on fire. And I still don't believe in this Cowboys defense. I get what you're saying about the young guns for Dallas with Elliott and Prescott and all that. But I just think Ben's going to come out and actually find Antonio Brown with some regularity. They'll actually get Le'Veon Bell going. I think this offense is much better talent-wise than it's played the last game since Ben came back. And Ben was off for a couple weeks. It's okay to be rusty. That's fine. But he looked healthy enough. I think he'll be fine. And plus, this is the Steelers at home. This is the first time the Cowboys will have been tested in a couple games, taking the Steelers.
Wow, Adam. If all of your picks this week pay off and you get into the bonus, after all of these, you've been all over the map on this one, picking a lot of the underdogs. I will seriously question your. Like, I don't know if you have the almanac from Back to the Future.
Me and Biff are buddies, dude. No, like, look, man, I just know ball. I just know ball.
If you do well this week, I'm just going with every pick you make, just to try and make up some ground.
Yeah, I agree, because I'm
going... You can change my name to Adadamus, too, like Nostradamus.
We'll have to. You'll change your Pick'em team name. That would be appropriate.
No, I wouldn't do that. That messed up my mojo.
That's true.
You only got so much mojo.
Look, I named my team Brittermilk Pancakes, and somehow the man that I named that team after became an upper tier center out of nowhere. This is my year.
No wonder you're so arrogant when it comes to the picks.
Exactly. That and my record.
Well,
everything he touches is gold, right?
I told myself that I am not picking against the Cowboys for the rest of the season after I tried week to week to pick against them, thinking that they were finally going to lose another game. They haven't done it yet. I'm sticking with the Cowboys, I think, for the rest of the season. And 67% of users going with Dallas, only 33% going with the Steelers.
Wow. God, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard being like the smart heretic, the one that kind of.
So now we got the Seahawks versus the Patriots. Move on before Adam's head kind of blows out of this.
I go and blow a bunch of semen all over. All right. Hawks take on the Patriots. Brandon, I know you got the Hawks.
I do have the Hawks, and not only do I have the Hawks, but since I knew Gerrad, with the new risk pick format, I knew Gerrad wasn't going to take the Seahawks. And Seattle in risk pick territory this week against the 7-1 Patriots, 86% going with New England, only 14% going with Seattle on the road to beat Genghis Tom and the Patriots. That's I like the Seahawks matchup in this. That 14% seems awfully low, though I know a lot of people like New England in this game.
Well, the Patriots aren't invincible. Let's just put it that way. They're human beings. They put on their uniforms one pant leg at a time, too. Tom Brady can't win every single game that he plays in the rest of this year. He can't. I mean, well,
he can't.
He can't. It can't be done. But look, the Seahawks defense can match up with the Patriots offense. It's all a matter if the Seahawks can actually sustain long drives. And it has been a struggle at times throughout the season, and especially the last couple of weeks. But I'm hoping that coming into this game, the Seahawks will recommit to the run game. Maybe we get a little Tremaine Pope out there. Maybe we get, heaven forbid, I might even say this, maybe a little more Alex Collins. Just somebody to add a little bit of toughness to the run game. If we can establish a run and just finally run the stinking football, we have a legitimate shot at this. But I'll tell you straight up, this is going to be a tough game. I can understand why people are going in on the Patriots.
I can understand it. I don't agree with it. Like,
I can understand it too.
If a Seahawks fan picks the Patriots, they're still going to get minus 40 in the in the Seahawkers podcast league.
And because it's the Patriots, that's a minus 80. Because you can't.
That's true.
Do that against them. Come on.
Although the Seahawks did win the last regular season matchup between these two teams.
I'm like that how you glossed over the last postseason matchup.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about, Adam.
It was a good one. That one score game. Unfortunately, this isn't going to be that close. I mean, if there's one thing that the Seahawks struggle with, it's covering a tight end, and Rob Gronkowski's been crushing everybody. I mean, I know Cam Chancellor's coming back, but he couldn't cover Gronkowski when he was in his prime. And look, when you have Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Tyrod Taylor all scoring 24 points 25 points against the Seahawks defense. Tom Brady's better than all three of those guys combined. I mean, you're not going to go on the road.
I don't know. Drew Brees combined with Tyrod Taylor would be pretty impressive.
It would be. It would be. But when you see the Bills kind of march up and down the field on some of those drives, especially throwing the ball, I mean, Tom Brady's way better than Tyrod Taylor. He's better than Matt Ryan. It's a tall order for this worn-out Seahawks defense to go on the road all the way across the country and try and compete with Tom Brady, who is still pissed at Roger Goodell. Let's not forget about that. But like we said before, your guys' offense has kind of done. I mean, it's much better than the Broncos' offense. Don't get me wrong, but still, the time of possession has been killing your defense, and they looked really tired in the end of the game. I mean, but they still competed. You got to give them a lot of credit. But man, against this pissed off New England team, I know they just got rid of Jamie Collins, but Tom Brady doesn't care. He just doesn't.
Look, can we go back to the idea of combining Tyrod Taylor and Drew Brees together into one person? With can you imagine a quarterback with Tyrod's legs and Drew Brees' birthmark? Like,
you wouldn't be able to see it.
I didn't say skin color, asshole. It'd be amazing. I mean, it'd be unstoppable. That's all I'm saying. But
it's just a tough time for you guys to have to play this team. I mean, I think if your defense had gotten a little more rest, it might have been a closer game. But this is a bad matchup at this time. I mean, it's a lot like us playing the Saints right now. It just sucks. Sucks.
It's a tough one, man. I'm not gonna lie, it's a tough one. I'm worried. I'm worried about this game. But
Seahawks,
I'm picking
solid record though in prime time.
Yeah, there's that. And there's also the idea that the Seahawks always play their best when they're discounted the most too. They really are. I mean, let us not forget, this is a team with a total of 2 first-round draft picks playing on the 53-man roster. Like, this is a bunch of underdogs through and through. And don't give me Tom Brady as an underdog too. I don't want to hear it.
I mean, that's all nice. Yeah, but he was undrafted.
Come on. He's a 6th rounder.
Whatever. If you want to play that card.
Saying. Don't tell me he's underrated.
If you want to play that card, come on. You're going up against the epitome of an underdog at this point. But if there's one thing that I have learned about Russell Wilson this season is that he can throw the football anywhere. He can put a football anywhere, and it doesn't even matter. His throws are absolutely perfect. But he needs a run game to try and sustain some drives and keep that defense off the field. If that doesn't happen,
we heard from Pete Carroll. This team doesn't need to run the ball.
Yeah, it's fine now. Because who needs an identity? All right. Moving on to the last game of the week, one that I am wholly not interested in. Cincinnati Bengals take on the New York Giants, Gerrad.
I'm not all that impressed with Cincinnati's pass rush. And if you don't get Eli off his mark and hit him to rattle him a couple times, because we've all seen he doesn't want to get hit anymore.
Yeah.
I don't see Cincinnati rattling him. And when their offense actually has time, they're good. Those receivers get open. I don't know if Victor Cruz is going to be playing. I actually don't think he's going to. But who's going to guard Odell Beckham Jr. if Eli can sit back there for 3 seconds? He's going to get open. I mean, in that defense, they can come alive a little bit. But I'm going the Giants at home because they can play good football from time to time, and I think they're going to continue to do it.
Oh, gosh. I think I had the Giants until Gerrad said that he had them. Because and you make good points. I just, and the Bengals historically have been a terrible team in primetime matchups, too. It's just that I just don't like the fact that Gerrad picked the Giants. 74% going with New York, only 26 going with the Bengals. This is almost risk pick territory. I hate it, but I have to go with the Giants on this one. Andy Dalton just is not impressing me. 3-4-1. Maybe with their backs against the wall, they show me something and come back against this Giants team. Adam, you're the road warrior this week. Do you pick the Bengals on the road against New York?
These two teams are both middle of the road teams. You know what I mean? Like, out of that grouping, like of the middle of the road teams, these guys are exactly in the middle of that grouping.
Right.
And so with that, there's only one thing that pushes one team over the top of the other, and that's being at home. So I'm going with the Giants.
Okay.
But that's it. That's really what it boils down to me, because either Eli Manning or Andy Dalton can have one of those games.
Yep.
Either one of these defenses can come alive and look like a playoff caliber defense for a game or two here or there.
But only one of these quarterbacks can win a Super Bowl.
AJ Green AJ Green can blow up and have a gigantic game. So can Odell Beckham.
Yeah.
Like, you go down the list, and they're very similar teams. And so basically the deciding factor to me is, lame as it sounds, is just the Giants are at home.
Wow. I think I've picked more road teams than home teams this week.
I have one.
I'm dead even.
I have 8 road teams and 6 home teams.
I'm dead even.
And I was the road warrior. You're the road warrior. I only have 6 road teams.
What? Yeah. I don't believe it. Oh, that's okay. I might have to switch over and pick the Chargers just to balance myself out.
You know what I love?
I don't feel good about the road.
You know what I love is that I have gotten into your guys' heads so much with your picks at this point. Like, I just say, oh, no, I guess I only have 6 road. Like, well, I'm switching one then. Jesus, I don't know.
Looks like I've got too many road teams.
Yeah. I got Brandon switching his picks more often than he changes his underwear.
That might be accurate.
Yeah.
News and interesting topics from around the NFL.
Does anybody got headlines they want to talk about?
Yeah, let's kick this off. I was looking at awful announcing, and here's an interesting headline. It says, whoa, the NFL may consider fewer commercials to help improve television ratings, guys. And I love how these headlines are worded, too. The NFL may consider, not are considering or not will consider. They might consider it.
Which means it hasn't even really been discussed yet. Somebody just threw that out there as an idea.
Somebody had to write something to fill space, like that's all that was. Give me 350 words and talk about the ratings. Go.
I do hate the post-kickoff commercials, though. It's like you give us a kickoff and then we're back to commercial.
That is pretty gross.
I hate that.
And that's one of the things that this article points at, that just how frustrating that is. And another thing they point out, 63 minutes of commercials compared to 11 actual minutes of football. This is why the NFL is making boatloads of money, right? They're bringing in the advertising and trying to fit it in wherever they can, because this is one of the few things that people still watch live.
Yep. It's true. And look, everybody's freaking out about the ratings. The ratings are fine. This is not going to be a systemic overall problem for the league. We talked about it before, of all the other factors that are unique to this year. Just wait till next year.
Well, when you blow the ratings through the roof, as the NFL has, because as popular as it is, you're not going to match that every year. So you're going to come down from that a little bit.
At some point, your mojo runs out.
Yeah. NFL's old.
Yeah. All right. I had one headline I want to talk about, just because I don't know if we'll have a chance to really get into this on the Seahawkers pod. Kayla Carpenter's tweet about Richard Sherman. I don't know if you'd seen this, Brandon, but after Dan Carpenter got ran into by Richard Sherman, his wife came out on Twitter and said,
"That's embarrassing."
No, here we go. I know what we do on the farm when a male can't control his rage. # lucky I'm not there. And basically what she's referring to is castrating the animal, like on the farm. Like that's what you do. Like, I mean, it's one of the things that helps keep male animals in check. Now, here's the thing to me. Everybody came out and was like, oh my God, Kayla Carpenter. She's calling him an animal. This is terrible. It's outrageous. And she later deletes it. I want to give it an explanation.
And she apologized.
I know, because she had to.
Well, she did. That's true.
Let me give a little clarification. Kayla Carpenter is a Montanan. Let me give you a Montanan interpretation on this, because she was not calling Richard Sherman an animal. That wasn't in her mind whatsoever. She just wanted to castrate the guy. That's a Montana joke. That's a Montana joke. There was no hate in her heart as far as him being black and her being white or anything like that, or her trying to call him an animal. That's a straight up rough and tough Montana chick threatening to castrate you for roughing up her husband. That's just every day. That's a normal joke where we're from.
Right.
It's a lot like when New Yorkers are like, oh, everybody gets offended when we talk. This is just how we talk. Well, this is kind of in that same vein. This is just a farm girl making a joke.
I kind of get that, but also on the other hand of this society where we have these Twitter jabs and shit, how rough and tumble of a person are you if you're doing the passive-aggressive Twitter jab?
I think that was aggressive Twitter.
No, I don't. There's nothing aggressive about going online and typing something mean about
something. No, as far as the wording.
Yeah, but I hate this crap.
You get emotional. You saw your husband get hit in the knee and go down.
You know what? She's gonna get on a plane and go like confront Richard Sherman in 30 minutes?
Or just keep your mouth shut. Who gives a shit what you say on Twitter? Who cares?
I'm generally in your camp on those things, Gerrad. We talked about the idea of it being called a Twitter war, and I'm like, this has nothing. This isn't war. This is a Twitter slap fight. This is just stupid.
These are two pen pals being mad at each other.
Oh my stars! How could you say that?
These whole Twitter wars and people attacking each other. 99% of these little battles that happen on social media would not exist if these people were face to face because they're all a bunch of bitches. I hate this shit.
That's true. That's true. I've never said anything on Twitter that I wouldn't be fully willing to say straight to their face.
You should have to back it up. I don't know.
No, that's a good point. You got to back up what you're going to say on Twitter. Don't delete it.
No, I would never delete it. Like, for example, I got into it with some dude named Jesse Waters, a Fox TV host. And basically,
I have seen that guy since you mentioned that. What a dude!
He's a douchebag. And to further my point, months after I tweeted out he was a douche and should take his pop collar and jump off a cliff, the Daily Show had a little skit highlighting just how big of a douchebag he was. So this isn't just me. It's not just me noticing this.
No wonder everybody thought you were ultra liberal then, if the Daily Show is pointing out how much of a douche he was.
Well, because he's a douche. You don't have to be any kind of ism to realize this dude's a douchebag. And I told him I'd say it straight to his face. And like one person was like, "No, you wouldn't." I was like, "Yeah, no, I literally would. Like I would absolutely do that. There's no doubt in my mind."
It was funny because I ended up watching one of the shows after I found out about that, and the one that I watched was that he actually had a pretty good report.
Oh, great!
I know.
Yeah.
It just made me laugh.
Well, even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while, Brandon.
I did think it was interesting how he had his harem surrounding him, though, on the TV set. This
is what I'm talking to you about, man. He does. He's got his little Waters World harem. He's a douchebag. With a capital douche. Any other headlines? You got anything, Brandon? Oh, no, you did. What about you, Gerrad?
No.
Solid. Well, Gerrad, in his defense, Gerrad has had a busy week.
I brought up the Darren Sproles one last week. I'm good for one every 3 weeks.
Is that no? This isn't like we each bring up one every 3 weeks because there's three of us.
Well, this is a news flash.
Double penalty. I want everybody.
Oh yeah, think about my penalty for
not coming up with topics, and also not. What was your risk pick this week, Gerrad?
Chicago. I already switched it.
Okay.
Newsflash: the Ravens up by another touchdown, 28-7. But by the time people hear this, the game will already be over, and it won't be
these
news.
are going to be anticlimactic. Yes.
I know.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think with that, there's only two things left to say, and that is hooray, Bear.
Hooray, Bear.
Hooray, Bear.
Hooray, football.
Hooray, football.
Go Broncos.
No way.
Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/PicksandIPA.